When Michael Bay's Transformers came out in 2007, it kicked off one of the most successful movie franchises of all time. But it wasn't always this way. In fact, when Hasbro first started looking for studios to produce a film based on their toys, they were turned down by every major studio in Hollywood. They didn't think that there was a market for a robot action movie. And even after Steven Spielberg expressed interest, he was only interested in a smaller, more animated version of the film. So how did we go from a children's cartoon about robots in disguise to one of the biggest action franchises of all time? Well, let's find out. This is Transformers 01. Before we get into how the Transformers became a blockbuster franchise, if you love everything to do with movies, then make sure to hit that subscribe button. We release multiple videos every single week. In the mid-90s, toy companies were starting to look for ways to expand their brands beyond just making toys. And one of the most popular ways to do this was through animation. In 1984, Hasbro released the original Transformers toy line, which was based on an anime series called Diaclone. Along with the toys, they also produced a cartoon series that introduced us to Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Megatron, and the rest of the gang. The show was a huge success and ran for 3 seasons. It was also one of the highest-selling toy lines year after year, so it made sense that Hasbro wanted to try and capture that magic again. In 1996, Hasbro formed a new division called Hasbro Film Productions and set out to create a movie based on one of their toy lines. At the time, they had no idea which one yet, but it was likely going to be Transformers, G.I. Joe, or Power Rangers. All 3 properties were extremely popular with kids at the time and had the potential to make a lot of money. But before they could start writing scripts, they needed to find studios willing to help them produce these films. To say that this process was difficult would be an understatement. Every major studio in Hollywood passed on the project, saying that there was no way that people would go out to see a movie about robots in disguise. But Hasbro was determined to make this work. They had seen what the Power Rangers were able to do, and they wanted something similar for their own properties. Eventually, they found someone who was interested, Steven Spielberg. Spielberg was the biggest director in Hollywood at the time, having recently directed Jurassic Park. So when he expressed interest in directing a Transformers film, Hasbro jumped at the opportunity. There was just one problem. Spielberg wasn't interested in making the film that Hasbro had in mind. He wanted to take a different approach. Spielberg wanted to make a smaller, more animated version of the film with the voice cast reprising their roles from the 80s cartoon. It would have been rated G and focused more on the story rather than action. Essentially, it would have been a kids' film. Hasbro liked the idea of this film, but ultimately they wanted something that would appeal to a wider audience. They wanted to capture the same feeling as the original 80s cartoon, but in a more modern, high-budget action film. Spielberg ended up passing on the project and went on to direct The Lost World, which was another big blockbuster hit. This left Hasbro back at square one. They had a ton of offers from other directors, but none of them seemed like the right fit. It wasn't until they met with Michael Bay that things really started to take off. Bay was the perfect choice to direct the film. He had a ton of experience directing big-budget action films like Bad Boys and Armageddon. He knew how to create exciting action sequences that would appeal to audiences of all ages. Filming for the first Transformers movie wrapped in September of 2005, and the movie was released 2 years later in July of 2007. The rest, as they say, is history. The film grossed over $700 million worldwide and became the 6th highest-grossing film of all time. It also spawned 4 sequels, with the latest one being released in 2017. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite thing about the Transformers franchise? And which character do you think is the most badass? Let us know in the comments below. Also, if you haven't already, make sure to check out our other content where we talk about all things movies. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.